Hello, fourth graders. It's Miss Leon. We are here in our next lesson in the unit of historical fiction book clubs. So in lesson 3, we are going to be talking about timelines. In stories, in our historical fictions, you will be learning that there is more than one timeline happening at the same time. There is the character's timeline, and there's also a historical timeline, and those two different timelines are intertwined. It helps to know how the character or the person in the story's timeline intersects with the timeline of the world's events. For example, I like to tie this to your lives to kind of help you connect to this learning. So for when you're waking up, you have your timeline. During the day, you wake up at home and you get ready, and then you get to school with your friends and you're doing your learning, and then you end up going home and you're with your family. All the while this is all happening, your adults in your life are typically waking up around when you do and getting ready or possibly helping you get ready. Typically speaking, not all the time, but an example could be that while you're at school with your friends learning, the adults in your life could be at work. They could also be doing other things, but then at the end of the day, they go home as well and they take care of the family. Thinking about those two dual timelines and how that connects to your life, we have this going on in our historical fiction books with our characters. They have their lives, and then they have things that are happening in history as they are living their personal lives, but those two things are meeting up and they're intertwining at the same time. So another example, real life example, is my timeline, events in my life and events that were happening in the world during the timeline of my life while I was living my, how they say, your best life. So Miss Leon was born in 1980. In 1985, I went to kindergarten. But when I was born in 1980, the game Pac-Man was released. Yeah. And then in 1985, when I was going to kindergarten, I bet you wouldn't believe this, but the first Air Jordans were put into the stores to sell. Can you believe that? I did not know that. I learned that. In 1994, my parents ended up buying my grandma's house. So that was kind of a big deal for us. But that same year, the show Friends came on TV. And a lot of kids know what that show is, but that happened back in 1994 when I was 14 years old. Then in 1996, it was so exciting. I got my driver's license. But in that same time during that year, the Olympics were in the United States. They were actually in Georgia, which is a huge deal in time for our country. And then in 2001, as I was driving to my college, St. Louis Community College, 9/11 happened. I was in my car and I remember hearing on the radio that the planes had crashed into a building as I was driving to school. So these are just some examples about how my life, as things are happening to me in history, things are also happening around the world, all at the same time. We're living in the same time, but in different places, different things are happening. So I want to look at the timeline of Number the Stars. And we have the events of our characters' lives and the events in history that overlap. We have our main character, Anne Marie. We have the years, and we have the historical events. And earlier in Anne Marie's life, remember, she was sitting on her father's lap, and he was telling her the story about King Christian and how King Christian was riding through the town on his horse. And then sometime after that, in 1940, Denmark is invaded by Germany. After that happens, and we don't have an exact date, Anne Marie's older sister, Lise, is killed. But between 1940 and 1942, Elise is killed, but then after she is killed, Hitler recalls the German ambassador from Denmark. So he is pulling his ambassador out of Denmark, or yeah, from Denmark. And then in 1943 is when Anne-Marie, Ellen, and Kirsten are stopped while they are running home by this German soldier. All at that same time, in Denmark, Jewish people were being taken from their homes and out of their shops and from their lives and being put into concentration camps. So what we need to know while we are in our historical fiction book clubs is that timelines are important. When you are reading these stories, there might be some flashbacks, and there might be times when you guys are jumping forward into the present time of that book, when your character is living in the moment or when they are flashing back to previous times. Keep track of that, and also keep track of the multiple timelines. So like in the past, and then the present time that your character is living in, and then also what is happening in the world when your character is living.